one-to-one doula, and today we've got Tanya here, so I'm just going to get Tanya to introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Tanya Pinnock. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. I'm also a mother of 4 children, and I currently do a lot of preventative work around domestic abuse, and that's about me sharing my story, empowering and trying to inspire other survivors of domestic abuse or people that are yet to leave abusive relationships.
Yeah? Okay, so Tanya, I'd just like to ask you a few questions. If you find that some of the questions you would like me to stop or you'd like to skip, then feel free to just let me know that,
Okay.
and we'll move on. Okay, so what I'd like to ask is, when did you first notice you was in an abusive relationship?
I think I noticed early on. So my abuse started with what we now know is coercive control. So it started off with isolating me from my friends and family, a lot of stalking behaviour, and then shortly after it led on to physical. But I knew that it wasn't right at the beginning, but I think my relationship started quite quickly and everything just moved so fast. I didn't really have the time to be able to reflect on, the impact at the time of what, the early stages of abuse was doing to me.
Was your partner at the time abusive to you around your friends, your family, or abusive to you in public areas? Or was it just when you was alone when you found that he was most abusive towards you?
I mean, a lot of it was when I was alone. I would say the times he was abusive in public places were times where he didn't have control. So for example, if I tried to leave and he'd known I'd gone to a family or friend's house, he would not necessarily be physically abusive, but he would turn up at the house, be quite intimidating, making threats.
To you or to your friends?
To me and my friends.
Oh,
To me and my friends. So, I mean, there's times that I have been attacked in public, but not like just randomly in a street. I remember there was an incident outside my house and there was a couple of people that passed, but it would never be so obvious that everybody would see.
Okay, and was he abusive around your children at any point? Or?
So, he wasn't physically abusive around my children. However, we know that whether you're attacked, so I was never attacked by him in front of my children. It was very, and that's part of the manipulation, it was very well planned out. So a lot of the times it would be like early hours of the morning when I would be attacked. However, that doesn't mean to say that my children wouldn't be impacted, because I know, I've had conversations, particularly with my eldest son, and we talk openly about, his experiences. And he's told me of times where, probably we thought he was sleeping and he wasn't, and he remembers. Those experiences of, his earlier childhood when, he knew his mum was getting attacked and there wasn't much that he could do about it.
Oh, that's not nice. So in regards to when he was abusive, in regards to verbally abusive to you in front of your friends, how did you feel? Did your friends help you or say anything to support you, or did you feel excluded?
I think my friends and my family a lot of times did try to intervene, but they also knew that there was a risk to me when that happened, particularly because I was at the stage where I was so fearful of him and I didn't feel that I had the strength at that time to leave. So I guess there comes a time where, you know, your friends and family, they have the best intentions and they really, you know, did try to get me out, but, you know, I was so manipulated by him at that point. I just feel that I couldn't leave. So no matter what anybody said to me at that point, you know, I wasn't able to leave. So, you know, and part of his, you know, isolation, he distanced me from my family and friends. So there was times that I didn't have contact and it was literally, you know, just me and him and my children.
Okay, and so your friends and family knew he was physically abusive, or did they just think it was a verbal thing? No,
they knew he was physically abusive as well. There's times my family have called the police, but yeah, you know, it's the same situation where I've just, at the time, I just didn't feel that, you know, I was very fearful of him that, you know, if I tried to leave, and I did try to leave at times, that he, you know, he would try and kill me, because that's some of the things that he used to say to me.
Okay, sorry to hear that. Okay, did any of the abuse when you was pregnant, was you pregnant when you was with him, and was he abusive to you throughout any of your pregnancies or anything?
Yeah, so he's the father of my 3 youngest children, and he was abusive. That's when my physical abuse started, as soon as I fell pregnant.
Which I think is quite common.
Yeah, definitely.
That as soon as you're in your vulnerable state, that's when the physical part of it comes.
If you haven't experienced it already, then the likeliness is that it's going to start at that stage. And yeah, that happened. That was ongoing through all 3 of my pregnancies for him.
Physically,
psychologically, emotionally. And I think I've spoken to you about this before, but it also was happening, you know, whilst I was giving birth. He was very abusive in the labour ward on all 3 occasions. Very controlling in simple things like pain relief. I didn't have a say in what pain relief I was able to use. He made it very clear that I would have to do it naturally, and that was his standpoint for all 3 of my pregnancies. So yeah, it was very difficult, and I think, I mean, you know, professionals knew about the intensity of the abuse. You know, my health visitor and my midwife knew, so it would have been on the records on the system. But I think that, you know, because people, you know, health professionals may see you and they may make an assumption that you've got a supportive partner without really keeping, for me, I'm not sure how the system works, but there should be some type of alert on certain files, especially when, you know, you've got a vulnerable pregnant woman, to say we need to keep an eye on this, you know, on this lady because she's in an abusive relationship, and which was never the case. We was often left for long periods of times, and, you know, whilst I was in labour, and you know, I received lots of threats whilst, you know, I was literally just about to give birth from my ex-partner. So it was like a really horrific experience, and unfortunately all 3 of my pregnancies, you know, have not been enjoyable. And, you know, you're supposed to enjoy, you know, bringing a child into the world, but with the intensity of the abuse, especially getting worse during your pregnancy. It was a very difficult time.
Yeah, that must have been really, really hard for you. And well, I guess you most probably felt that you had no other choice but to just continue at that time. Also, in regards, you did say that your health visitor and your midwife knew that there was some domestics within. Did they know it was with that relationship that you was currently in?
Yeah.
And you were still left with him when you went in?
Yeah, I mean, I had lots of conversations with healthcare professionals about abusive relationship, including doctors. So it was all on even if I hadn't said it, it would have been on the files for them to have access to. So yeah. And
did if I just ask, your aftercare, how was your aftercare? Was it that they stayed with you longer than usual? Did they do 28-day care for you, or? Yeah, 28-day. Yeah. Oh, you did get 28-day care. So did you have a midwife with you that was throughout your whole pregnancy, the same midwife? Yes. Okay, because that's a case when they normally have a case with you. So a caseload midwife, where that midwife will have that continuity with you to be better of support for you. Did you think you found that beneficial? Because you've had a son previously, which I'm guessing you didn't have that continuity, did you? I mean, it does make a difference, but I guess when you're in the type of relationship that I was in, and he's very manipulative, so when he's around certain professionals, you know, healthcare professionals, for example, he's the nicest guy in the world. And that obviously makes it quite it's quite difficult, because obviously, you know, the person's, that's not their, you know, their true character. So yeah, it's good to have, you know, that ongoing support from the same midwife, but you're still in a very difficult space, and then you feel, you know, you can't speak out because there could be consequences for you speaking out. And after the 28-day care, was there any type of follow-up, or you was just, so you've not had, once you've done your 28 care after having your baby, then the system has left you to get on with it? It's only like midwives, not midwives, sorry, health visitors, yeah. And that was the continuity of the health visitor? And would she come to your home, or would she just only be, if you felt you needed her, you go to her, otherwise? How did sometimes she used to come to my home, and then other times I would go to the surgery. And how did that make you feel? How did you feel about that? Did you feel that was something what you needed? Did you think you could have, like, being out of the equation right now, do you think that you could have had more done from the system, or do you feel that it wasn't enough, but then there's things that you could have... It's really hard, because no matter what is put in place, you have to be ready to take the step to leave. But actually, as a professional myself, the more we can empower, you know, anybody that's going through an abusive relationship, and I always use the term planting the seed, because I think start to have these conversations, you know, if I've had a conversation with you about, you know, my abusive relationship, that's really a perfect opportunity to be able to empower this woman to say, you know, you're not, you know, help her to start to believe in herself, you're not alone, there's support out there for you. And I just don't feel a lot of the professionals have those skills to be able to have those really difficult conversations. Yeah. I think within that sense, maybe they should have had someone that has maybe trained within domestics, and definitely they would have maybe been able to come from a different angle, I think. And okay, I'll just move on to the next questions. Apart from how things was within your pregnancy and the 28-day care and having contact with the health visitor, did you ever try to seek help after that, as the children got a bit older? Because or at any point?
I mean, I did, on a couple of times I tried to leave, but one time in specific, I had a really good relationship with my doctor, and if she didn't see me for a certain period of time, she would send me a letter to check in, not really saying anything because she didn't know if my ex would get hold of it, but just to kind of let me know that she was thinking of me, and if, you know, I needed anything, I could get in contact. And my ex-partner was, you know, had a planned trip to Jamaica, so I thought this is at that time I only had 2 children for him, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to leave, or to try and leave. So I made a plan with my doctor. I'd contacted a refuge, and I decided as soon as I knew that he was on the plane, that would be my opportunity to escape. And I never told anybody apart from like my close family. And we was in Hertfordshire, you know, we were starting to rebuild our lives, and shortly after, probably been there for 2 weeks, I changed my number and everything so that he couldn't get hold of me, and I saw a car driving past, and it was him. And you know, he was literally saying, "You need to get in the car now, get in the car now." So we ended up going back home, and when I went back home, there was a letter from the doctor's surgery which had confirmed where I had been staying. So he's gone into my house, thinking that I'm there, seen this letter. It's got the address, and that's obviously how he was able to
find you.
Locate where I was.
Oh. And so then you just end up going back into
because you just think if the system that's supposed to protect victims of abuse are going to make serious errors that could have had serious consequences for me and my children, then you might as well just go into the environment and into the mess that you know, because no matter what steps that you take, you know, there's always a way that he's going to be able to find, or you're going to be failed by the system.
That's how you felt?
Yeah, that's how I felt, yeah.
Do you still feel like that? Or?
No, I mean, now, you know, if I ended up in that situation, as soon as I saw those signs, I'd be out. But, you know, back then, you know, I was in a very, very different place back then, and I felt quite powerless, you know, at the time. I didn't feel that I was able to take those steps, because, you know, he had controlled my mind, you know, for so many years. So yeah.
So I don't know, I would like to ask, how did you eventually get out of the relationship with him?
So how I got out was, I started going into education.
So you went to go and study again?
Yeah, I went to uni. And yeah, I just knew that, you know, I'd had enough and this couldn't continue. And I always say that for many people, when you're in an abusive relationship, you start to detach yourself from the person mentally before you take the physical actions. And that's what it was for me. I started to see, when I was at uni, a different life, you know, surrounded by different types of people, and I knew that me and my children deserved better than this, and that's how it happened. And I, you know, he was distracted by other relationships that he was having at the time, so for periods of time the focus wasn't always about me, which was good for me. But then, you know, unfortunately, in 2016 he started to become quite obsessive. I wasn't aware that he was stalking me, but I started to get instincts that he was stalking me, so I wasn't staying at my house.
So you was out of a relationship with him when you went to uni?
Yeah.
And he had his own other relationships going on?
Yeah.
And then afterwards he started to stalk you?
Yeah.